Claims continue to mount about a politically biased legal system that's raising serious concerns about fairness and free speech in the courts. So, are conservative attorneys being unfairly targeted for representing controversial clients? I'm Veronica Dudo. Let's find out.
This is In America Today from the Ticker News Studios in New York City.
A new documentary, The Eastman Dilemma, Lawfare or Justice, explores the controversial legal challenges faced by John Eastman, a prominent constitutional scholar and former advisor to President Donald Trump. The recently released film delves into claims that Eastman and other conservative attorneys have been unfairly targeted for their legal representation of Trump following the 2020 presidential election. It also raises concerns about the impartiality of the justice system and the broader implications for free speech and legal advocacy in politically charged cases. Joining me today is John Eastman, a former attorney for President Trump, a senior fellow at the Claremont Institute, and the subject of the documentary. Welcome, John.
Thanks very much for having me, Veronica.
So first, let's begin with, can you describe a little bit about what motivated you to represent former President Trump during the post-2020 election legal challenges?
Well, I had seen a lot of illegality in the conduct of the election, and that's very significant because the Constitution assigns plenary authority to the state legislatures to decide the rules for choosing presidential electors. And those rules were violated by county clerks, by county secretaries of state, even by state court judges. And that meant the Constitution was, the election was unconstitutionally conducted. And our goal was to try and shine a light on that and to try and assess the impact of that illegality and whether it affected the outcome. So when President Trump called me to try and help him with that legal challenges, I was more than happy to oblige.
Now, from that, there was massive fallout. Can you talk a little bit about how your professional background and constitutional expertise influeenced your decisions during that time?
Well, I was hired by the Florida legislature after the 2000 election in Bush versus Gore controversy to provide my expertise on the constitutional requirements for choosing presidential electors. I'm one of the few constitutional scholars in the country that has dealt with that issue. Others on the other side of that case, like Ken Chesbrough and Alan Dershowitz, have acknowledged the validity of the arguments I made. But it didn't matter because things have gotten so hyper-partisan that if you represented Trump, they're going to go after you. And that, there's even a group called the 65 Project that has announced that their goal is not just to disbar all the lawyers involved in those election challenges, but to make them so toxic in their communities and firms that no lawyers will ever take on those kind of election challenges again. That's just a serious threat to the rule of law and to our adversarial system of justice, which I think is why Hollywood, this group, the Madison Media Fund out of Hollywood, was so interested in telling this story, because it's a compelling story and Americans need to see this movie and hear about this story and get angry about it and let their elected officials know that we're not going to tolerate this kind of lawfare anymore.
The documentary frames your experience as a form of lawfare. Do you believe the legal actions against you were politically motivated?
There's no question in my mind that they were. I mean, they're stretching statutes, criminal statutes, to cover conduct that they've never been understood to cover before. They're going after electors and people that advise electors for doing exactly the same thing that John Kennedy's electors in Hawaii did in 1960. They're using the mob racketeering statute to go after people in Georgia. They're claiming, fraud and in Arizona for signing their actual names rather than anything else. So, there's no question in my mind that this is politically driven, motivated. Look, one of the groups that was hired by the Arizona Attorney General, States United Democracy Center, is a virulently anti-Trump partisan group. They were the ones that filed the bar complaint against me in California, and yet they were hired by the Attorney General of Arizona to prepare the prosecution strategy against Trump and his supporters. That's like hiring the fox to develop a safety manual for your chicken coop. It's nonsense, but that's what they're doing.
Looking forward, do you believe reforms are necessary to prevent what you've described as a two-tier justice system?
I'm not sure reforms are necessary. I think the people that have engaged in this egregious unconstitutional conduct need to be held accountable so that other people get the message that this abuse of the legal system, and in particular the criminal justice system, will not be tolerated. And if you engage in it in the future, you will likewise be held to account, perhaps by criminal prosecutions. And I hope the incoming Department of Justice team, headed by Pam Bondi as Attorney General, if she's confirmed, as I suspect she will be, vigorously investigate this egregious abuse of the criminal justice system, and if warranted, bring criminal charges.
How has this ordeal affected you personally and your perspective on the legal profession's role in defending constitutional rights?
Well, the title of the movie is called The Eastman Dilemma, Lawfare or Justice. And I like to point out to people it's not Eastman's dilemma. I never had any dilemma. It's more a challenge to my colleagues in the legal profession. Are you going to sit quietly on the sidelines and watch this lawfare proceed, or are you going to stand up with some courage and stand by those who are pushing against these abuses? Because we cannot have a legal system that has such a thumb on the scale in an adversarial system of justice. It will destroy our system of justice if we don't put an end to this.
What message do you hope the Madison Media Fund's The Eastman Dilemma conveys to viewers about the state of the justice system?
Well, I hope it conveys the message that something went terribly wrong here, and that allowing this to continue unchecked will be a destructive force in our rule of law system of government, and that people get angry enough to push back against it, and elected officials hear that message and will put a stop to it, including partisan prosecutors. I mean, the prosecutorial role ought not to be partisan. The head of Stalin's secret police, a guy named Lavrenti Beria, famously said, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime." And yet in our system, we've always recognized what a danger such a tactic is. Identify the people you don't like and then scour the law books to go after them. That was a warning that was issued by Franklin Roosevelt's Attorney General to all the U.S. attorneys in the country back in 1940. Unfortunately, that warning has become the playbook, and they targeted Trump. They scoured the books, not just the prosecutors, but these outside anti-Trump groups scour the books, trying to find something that can be distorted and used to go after him, to criminally charge him, and try and keep him from re-election. That was election interference on steroids. And again, that kind of conduct is an egregious abuse of our constitutional rights, and it's actionable. It's criminal, and I hope people are held accountable for it.
John Eastman, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Take care.
This is Ticker. We'll be right back.